your exposure and openness to new information and changing conditions. So I know I had a lot of beliefs when I was younger that over time kind of shifted as I learned more. You know, it's kind of funny. I'll give you like a really simple one. There's always like things going around about you can learn a lot about someone by what they do with a shopping cart. And, you know, like, do they put the shopping cart away or do they leave it by their car? I
Right.
was thinking back to my learned environment was leave the shopping cart because someone's job is to put it away. So, you know, so I kind of went through a period of my life where I left the shopping cart because that was going to be someone's job and I don't want to do their job for them. I want them to do their job. So that was a learned belief. And then over time, that evolved, you know, to where actually my favorite thing to do is find spaces to park my car near where the shopping carts go because I don't have to walk as far to put it away. But I always put it away, you know, and that was a shift in belief where I was just open to seeing things differently. And I was in an environment that allowed that. So, you know, so how often do you have someone that they grew up in the same town, they surrounded by same people with certain values, and they stayed there, that's
Yes.
going to have a dramatic influence on their beliefs. Whereas someone who leaves and goes to a new environment that's different, now either they're going to be closed to that and they're going to leave and go back to where they're comfortable, or they're going to be open and things are going to change. It can be fluid, you know. But the other thing that struck me as you were talking, Bill, was like in business, we learned pretty early on that controlling the environment and expecting people to do the right thing was exhausting and rarely worked. And
Correct.
all we could do was try to design an environment that made it easier for them to make the right choice. So, right now, there are many people who don't see other humans as equal to them in their humanity. They see them as less than human. And love, in and of itself, I question whether that actually will change that. How do you create a design that allows love to flow in a way where it's easier for them to start seeing that other person as human? That's what I would
Interesting.
be curious about.
Right. But here you are trying to use it. Okay. And that is the first, you know, canard. Okay. That is the first red herring. That is the first. You can't use love.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm not
Love
saying
isn't
no, 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 no.
useful. Okay.
Dissolve
But
the
hang on.
resistance. Love
I'm
is already there,
well,
right?
no, it's either
Love is
present
already
or it
there.
is.
Huh?
You're either experiencing love or you're missing it. Those are the
It's
two
always
ways.
there. I would disagree with that. It's always there. It's just that we become disconnected from it. It's always there. So what I'm saying is it's hard to experience love when someone's torturing you, right? And so maybe you can evolve yourself to where you can because the love is there, and some people maybe could. So what I'm saying is there a design, is there a way we can communicate or interact as a society where the barriers between us and that love are reduced?
So here's the thing. There isn't love. There's no such thing as love, okay? Love does not exist until it's distinguished in a conversation. Here's what you and I, have to agree upon. You will not experience love until someone presents it. You can be the person who presents it or someone else can, but a possibility, you know, is only in existence in the moment it's being spoken, which is why people need to be trained to come from a particular style of speaking which honors people, as opposed to trying to thingify them, like the names that we give people for being this kind of ist or that kind of ist or whatever, so that we can put them into groups and we can deal with that's how those people are, and we know nothing about them. We don't even know any more about ourselves, because while we're describing people, and while we're, again, I'm going to come back because I love the word tolerance. Okay, Jan, I want to just acknowledge that right now, because tolerance is the first step in terms of being able to risk loving somebody. You cannot express or experience love in a situation where you are intolerant of that other human being. And as Ken said, where you regard them as less than, or you regard them as not human. And yet, how many of our conversations do we listen to where people are calling other people that they've never met or talked to names?
I wanted to go back to belief for a moment because
Sure.
I do agree with Ken, but I think there are certain beliefs which are almost inherent in your nature.
Mm,
And I look to myself and different experiences and what I chose to do, with my life and who I decided that I was going to hang around with and affiliate myself with. And that was just based on this inherent feeling that I had of, you know, acceptance. I mean, I grew up in a very Orthodox Jewish family, which was very non accepting of others. And I left that. And that just seemed wrong from the time I was probably, really, really young. It just didn't sit right with me.
Yep.
I'm like, doesn't matter to me. A person is just a person. And I think it was, for me, that was just inherent in who I was. Like, no one told it to me. No one ever said anything to me or whatever. It was just like, I can't be like this.
That's a great choice. And at some point, it just inside of you, something broke, didn't it? And it was just not okay with you any longer.
Oh, yeah. It got to the point where, as much as I wanted to fit in, quote unquote, I felt like I was dying, basically. Like that
Yep.
was like my soul was going to die
mm.
because it just wasn't who I was. And I do believe Ken, but I do agree with Ken on certain points also. I do think some of it is learned over time and different experiences and your ability to stay open to people.
And I think that's what's going on with all the events too, because I like some cultural and other beliefs that you're complete like might be completely unaware of. Your biases that you weren't even aware of, and because of what's been happening in the past couple of years, have become blatantly clear to me and basically broke my heart open. And I didn't even
Mm.
know it was shut to those things. I had no idea. So I think, it's like to find the good. I think that's some good aspects because I know it's not just happening to me. I know it's happening all over the world that these certain international happenings are, they're becoming international happenings because people are seeing them through the eyes of compassion or through the eyes of love, or suddenly open up more to those two things.
And that's an important piece of chemistry. The elements have to be present in order for them to cause an effect. And although, Ken, I could argue that you're 100% right, there's always love, or whatever we're talking about. I can argue, 100%. And yet at the same time, most of us don't live that way. Why do we need to be tolerant of anyone? Because we're pretty sure they don't agree with us, first of all. And what if they do? Or what if they do up to a degree? Or what if they do until we hear that thing that we shouldn't be tolerant of? Or so the argument here that I'm posing is, as you and I are going through our day, it's perfectly fine to be happy with the existence that we have. And then someone comes along, like Mike Tyson says, everyone's got a plan till someone punches you in the face. So now the question is, who are you going to be when that happens? Because the things that you cannot be with, that you would predict, um, that would happen in a conversation, they kind of do happen the way that you predict that they're going to happen. Sooner or later, you hear something that's exactly the way that you had intended it. So if we were going to be like alchemists for a world that works, I'm just saying that the gold standard It's going to be two things. I love you and I appreciate you. And until I tell you that, you don't know. That's this nature of when people are being called names and being dehumanized in a conversation, is love present or is love absent? And what does it take to flip that whole script and all of a sudden be in the middle of where people are calling each other names and they're not talking? And some crackpot fool hollers out, "Is there anything you can agree on?" And that, you hear people, "See, I cut me, I cut you, we both bleed." That much we can agree on, right? Um, we both are for something. What are you for? So I think the interesting part of all of this is out of the 40 million Ukrainians, I'm going to tell you, every last one of them had an inhumane side. And every last one of them had a side that was created by humanity. And there aren't any two of those 40 million or however many that are exactly the same. Every last single one of them is united by something that they call themselves. I too am a Ukrainian. Beyond that, we don't know much about the individuals, do we? Except for they're probably going to be a lot like you and me. And why would we if we had a choice to create a system, Ken, and that system were going to be built on what works in the world, what would we arm the folks that are going to work in that system with? What would we give them for tools? What would be the training strategy to prepare them for those moments when they get punched in the face?
It's a very good question.
I think we got some room to do some things in that area. I don't know that we're doing an awful lot to create human beings that can withstand, the put downs or the potential, nasty speech or whatever it is. And what if we all were able to just stand up on our hind legs and laugh?
Well,
You silly, you
it's
silly goose.
interesting.
That's what you believe? All right, good for you.
Yeah, I guess, I think it does, um, like here's just a kind of a simple example. What parent doesn't at some point have a teenager attack them with hurtful words? And they have to deal with that, and somehow they continue to express love, and for most parents, they find a way to forgive, and eventually, the kids come back when they have kids usually and say, "Wow, I can't believe," you know, but that was just where they were in that place. So, so I think we all have that capacity. And again, I don't know. I'm gonna hold my ground in a personal belief that there's a flow of love like a river, and sometimes we're just disconnected from it, or we're just dipping our toe, or we're drowning in it, and it's really just a matter of, it's not that it goes away, it's just our level of separation from that flow that can have consequences. And and you're right. I mean, as a martial artist, you can defend yourself from a place of love and break someone's arm because they're trying to stab you with a knife, but not from a place of hatred or anger. It's just actually from a place of sadness and compassion that they've reached a point where they've forced you to reflect that level of violence back on them because you just choose not to accept the harm that they're directing towards you.
Sure.
And you know, and I remember my mentor